Hey revolutionaries, normally I'm excited to bring you this week's episode, but I'm not excited this week. Nope, I'm not excited. I'm actually pumped. Yes, I am pumped this week to bring you this week's episode with Reza, where we talk about mindset training. I'm pumped because I love this episode, and yes, I've been drinking coffee, and maybe that has something to do with it. But anyways, before we get into the episode, I just wanted to remind everybody out there who's listening in their car right now, or is at the gym on the treadmill, or is in the shower, listening in the shower. Yes, I've listened to podcasts in the shower, believe it or not, ones that I'm really are into. And there's a reinvention revelation for you right there. But if you're listening at the park, wherever you're listening to it, remind yourself to, if you get something out of the show, to share it with someone, Tell somebody about it. Leave a review on iTunes. Also, another way to support the show is you can go to JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com/resources, where I have a few affiliate links there. I'll get a couple dollars kickback if you support me and purchase products through there. And wait a second, I said support tonight. Hold on a second. Let me rewind for a second. You know what? I don't think I want you supporting the show because I don't like support. Now that I think about it, support sucks. I'm not sure why I started using that word. I guess maybe it's just part of our language, but you know what? Because support seems like you're doing me a favor, and I don't want anybody to do me a favor. I want people that are really into the show and getting something out of it. It's kind of like when people tell you to support live music or support your local businesses and all that jazz. It's like, I think support sucks, I want to go to my local businesses because I love them. And I want to tell people about them because I love them. I get a lot out of it. So if you're loving the show and getting a lot out of it, you're going to want to do these things, and I'll appreciate you for doing them, and it'll make me want to provide more value to you. So that's really what I'm talking about. Sorry about using that S word there. Anyways, I'm ranting a little bit because, yes, I've been drinking coffee, and that's just the way it is sometimes. Okay, so let's get refocused. I'm going to get refocused. Let's everybody get refocused, okay? Everybody ready? I'm waiting. Focus, refocused. Okay, let's get refocused and let's get pumped for Reza because he's going to tell us about mindset performance training, which I didn't know you could have performance training for your mindset. So it's great, and he really breaks it down in this episode very clearly, the different levels of mindset and levels of learning. It's a really cool episode, so let's get right to it.
Welcome to JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, JimJim.
Hey everybody, hey, this is JimJim, and welcome to episode 31 of JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today with Reza, and we're talking about mindset training, and more specifically, mindset performance training. So I can't wait to get into it. Reza, welcome to the revolution.
Jim, thank you very much for having me on the show, sir.
Hey, well, thanks for taking time out of your day. And I know your day sounds busy over there because you're dealing with these contractors and you're working on your house right now, expanding your offices or something. Tell me what you got going on over there.
Yeah, we live in northern Arizona, a small little town called Strawberry, which we don't have, most of our neighbors are not here, but they're either over the age of 70 or it's their second home or their vacation home. So we live up here full time. Mm-hmm. So we live dead smack in the middle of the largest ponderosa pine forest in the world. So trees, if you can imagine, just green trees for as far as your eyes can take you. So we have a pretty nice environment here, and we want to utilize it. So we're extending the back of the house to build like this room that just has windows going all three sides, so we can have like a new office/studio. So that's the end goal. That's what we keep our eyes and our focus on, the prize, because the hammering and the sawing is driving us borderline crazy because we do a lot of our interactions. We utilize the internet for, right? So we have audio calls and video calls. So, right. We're sneaking around this part of the house and that part of the house and going into the car, making sure we have a quiet place. So we can make sure that we have good quality. So I appreciate you being lenient with me on kind of moving it around so we can get this tape today.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Well, I appreciate your commitment to quality, because I think you're out in the car or something like that. But we won't. That's like, insider information. We won't put that out there.
Yeah.
But anyways, as we dig into this, I have a couple questions for you, specific questions. The first one is, what is your mindset right now? What is it? What is your mindset?
Well, I think before I can answer that question, we need to talk about what mindset is.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my second question.
That's the second question? Okay.
Yeah, because I think that, this is something that I don't think I have understood very well, and just have come to a better understanding just recently within myself and with, over my career and kind of thinking about life. In terms of just thinking about how important mindset is and what it really is. So tell me what it is. What is it?
Well, let me flip the script here on you, and I'm going to reverse this question and ask you, what does mindset mean to you? Like, if I've never heard the word mindset before, and I want to ask you, like, hey Jim, what does the word mindset mean? Can you tell me what it means to your best ability?
Okay, well, I guess frame of mind, or how you think about yourself, or maybe how you're feeling. Are you happy? Are you depressed? Or, are you motivated? I mean, those are the kind of things that come to mind, I guess. And I think earlier, or like, historically, that's how I would always think of mindset. I think about it a little bit differently these days in terms of trying to get my ego out of the way and understanding a little bit more psychologically how human beings work and how my own mind works. I'm getting more conscious about that. But that's kind of the flavor. Those are the first things that would be coming to my mind if I had to answer that question. Great.
So you hit some of them in different ways of explaining it. And the reason why I asked is because everyone and in there was a lot of doubt. Like, it's your frame of mind, it's your thoughts, and maybe ego. I think, maybe. And so we have this idea of what mindset is, and some people say it's perseverance and it's tenacity and it's grit, and they use these adjectives to describe it. Some people think it's like the internal self. Some people think it's like how hard they're hustling. So there's a different angles that you can look at it. And if you Google the word mindset, and you don't need to do this right now, but I've done it already for you.
All right.
So if you Google the word mindset and you look up the first 5 definitions that pop up on Google, like, you'll get 5 completely different breakdowns of what mindset is. And so because of this, there's this misconception of what mindset is. And what mindset is, if you would have asked me 10 years ago what it was, I would have said all those things: grit, perseverance, working hard, tenacity. And my mindset is dialed in, Jim, right? Like, you either with me or you're off the train and I'm moving forward. And my background is 20 years of being in entrepreneurship. Like, that's what I know. I understand business through and through. I've developed teams. My last company had 80 plus employees. We broke $1 million a month, $1 million a year. Our first year, we got to over $12 million. We were breaking $1 million a month our second year. So I understand that world.
Right.
And so if you would ask me how my mindset was, freaking great. How was your mindset? I would have probably asked you.
Right.
But now getting into mindset performance training and what we do, I've realized that mindset is none of that stuff. Mindset is, there's 5 layers within your mindset.
5 layers, okay.
The first layer is your thought layer. And that thought layer is like that voice in your head, right? That thing that talks you in and out of stuff. It makes you procrastinate. It stresses you out. It keeps you up at night. It makes you, it just talks to you, that voice in your head. Some people's voice talks is more or less, and some people's voice in that head talks to them rougher and talks to them in ways that you would never talk to someone else, or else you might get punched in the face because it's rude.
Right.
It's rough. So that's the thoughts. The second layer is your emotions. And you touched on this in your description of it, how you feeling. Fear. Let's talk about fear, for example. Fear of failing, fear of rejection, fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of success, fear of intimacy. And that's just only one layer. There's many, many more complex emotions that we feel. So can your thoughts affect your emotions? Heck yeah. Can your emotions affect your thoughts? Absolutely. And then we bring in our beliefs, how we're raised, what religion taught us or lack thereof, parents parents taught us or lack thereof, friends, trauma, pain, growing up, childhood experiences, our environment, society. So that's kind of our beliefs, and people hold that near and dear to their heart, right? If you think about religion or pro this or pro that, that's the people's beliefs,
right?
And they hold on to that very, very hard. And then you have above and beyond that, you have what's called the biology, right? How you're wired as a human being. So these different layers and actions that you take, so these 5 different layers, what it does is they either work with each other or they work against each other. And so once you understand how to have these different layers working for you, that's when you can really have your mindset working for you like a superpower. But most people's mindset, what it does in a way of protecting their ego or protecting their feelings or protecting their ideas or protecting their success or their pride or whatever, it holds them back from doing the things that they want to be doing in life,
right?
Starting the businesses they want to be starting, having the tough conversations they need to with their spouse or their boss or their kids, and putting themselves out there because what if I fail? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I'm just thinking about all those different layers, which now I believe I'm starting to see for myself. But I think early on, I probably only had sort of a real surface understanding of any of those layers. It's nice to kind of get a certain level of consciousness and raise up out of your things you just learned when you were young. I mean, that's kind of one part of it, kind of one part of starting to become conscious, but starting to understand how they all work and turn together, that, you start realizing that, motivation and being hyped and focused and tuned in, like the stuff you might kind of learn. Like I played sports in high school, for example, so we did learn a lot of good discipline, and we learned motivation, and you wanted to be pumped up and focused for the game, and you did learn to mentally focus. And some people would say that was part of your mindset, but I think those were kind of
it's surface level mindset.
Yeah, maybe tools or something, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't really digging deep to have a real understanding kind of internally of how your mind really works. It was sort of like, here's a tool, here's a tactic basically to use.
Yeah.
Right?
If I can add that, and you're right on the right track, so if we're not about teaching people tools and tactics and tricks and strategies, that's not what we're about at all. And why is that? Because the people that we work with, the clients that come through our doors, they've tried the people that stand up on stage and say jump up and down and pound your chest, and they've tried the crystals and the praying and the books and the meditation and medication, and they've gotten so far with it, right? And those things are great, right? Meditation is a great thing. Journaling is a great thing. Affirmations is a great thing. I'm not talking bad about them. I'm just saying they can only get you so far. Right. And so when you only get that far and you want to get to that next level, then how do you do it? Then you can't no longer attack mindset with a surface level. So you need to get to the root of what the issue is, right? So for example, one thing that a lot of people have an issue with is procrastination, right? They want to do things and they're not doing the things that they want to be doing in life. So what do they do?
And that's me, by the way. That's me. I have a problem with procrastination for sure.
It's a lot of people, right? And so there's things that you want to be doing that are like, who the heck? I'm not anybody to say, Jim, you should, do this or do that. Who the heck am I to tell you that? But the things that are the most important to you, that you want to do, and it's important to you in your life, and you're not getting to, you don't need. What I would do before is go and get a book on procrastination or time management, and go and find tips and tricks and tactics and strategies and solutions on how to overcome it. Hey, follow the 7-step PDF or read this book that I wrote, because I used to have bad procrastination habits and now I have good procrastination habits. So now I'm a procrastination habits expert. No, you're not. You just had bad procrastination habits before, right? And so a lot of people out there now, they think that if they had a problem, they overcame it, they're an expert in it, and that can't be farther from the truth. There's a big difference between experts and people teaching you from personal experience. There's a big difference in that. If I broke a bone, I don't want to go to you, Jim, if you broke a bone, with all due respect, because I want to go to an expert, right? So in it, like the motivational videos, if you go on YouTube and you put on motivational videos, there's a lot of them, well-made ones that will give you a dose of insulation, a dose of inspiration. But it's not. But what happens after that fades? It doesn't get to the root of it. So what we want to figure out is, what would be long lasting is figuring out why you procrastinate in the first place and how to overcome it at the root problem, as opposed to trying to put a Band-Aid on it to temporarily relieve the symptoms of it.
Right, exactly.
That makes sense?
It totally makes sense.
Instead of trying to get a bunch of balloons, helium balloons, and tying it to your wrists and floating away from the problem, right? I don't care how many you have. If you have an anvil stuck on your ankle, the root problem, you're off. You're better. You can only do so much with pulling up. And even if you get 1,000 helium balloons, it's going to lift you up, but it's not going to get you to the same place as if you understand where that root problem is and be able to cut that line.
Right.
So it's not about tips and tricks and tactics and strategies on how to propel you forward and up in life. Is to be able to understand and unlock and discover what's been holding you back this whole time psychologically.
Right. Well, man, you just said a real mouthful right there. And I think it's like, this is exactly why I wanted to have it on the show, because, for people out there that are thinking like, hey, I'm in the middle of trying to reinvent myself, or I'm trying to figure out how to navigate this new digital world that we're living in, or whatever. It can be a real trip on your mind, and it can really sort of highlight some of those challenges that you've always had, but you never were conscious of or never knew how to tackle them, So like, kind of hearing you break it down like this really makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And you know what, Jim? Like, I think there's one thing to know, Jim, is there's 4 levels of learning. And I think this will kind of backfill in how I even got to this point and talking to you and what we do and what our company does now. So my background is being in business for 20 years. So after being in business for 20 years, my first company, I had no employees, busting my butt 60, 80 hours a week, making no money, thinking like, this sucks. This is the entrepreneurship world. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I'm losing money some months.
Right.
And then my last company, I had, 60, 80 plus employees, breaking millions of dollars. But I found myself one day, I'm like, I'm not happy doing this. There's so many problems. There's so many issues. There's so many, so much stresses on me. I'm not happy doing this. So if I can wake up tomorrow doing absolutely anything that I would love to do, what would it be? And I really sat down and thought about it. I love developing people and helping people reach the next level when it comes to their leadership, when it comes to processes, when it comes to procedures in the company, and just developing people reach a level that they never knew existed, especially when it comes to dollars and cents in the business aspect of it. And the secondary part of it is, I like business as a whole. So I naturally got out of that business about a year later it took, and I got into business consulting. So I would go in just like the TV shows and, go in, talk to the owners of the company, figure out where they're at, what they're trying to do, what their problem was. And living in Arizona for, over 28 years and being in business for so long, I had a pretty good reputation of being in business. So I would go into people that I would know and say, hey, what's the issue here? And just like personal development, they had an idea of what they wanted to improve, whether they knew how to do it or not, but they felt the pain of it. They felt the aftermath of what they're dealing with. So I would hang out with their business 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks at a time with the leaders, with the workers, with the implementers. And I would come back before I made any kind of changes and sit down with the leadership team again and say, hey, Jim, this is what I see as the problem. It's this first, this second, this third. Do you guys agree with me? And 9 out of 10 times they say yes, or give me a little bit, massage what I'm saying a little bit and say, okay, this is what I say is the problem is, this is the solution, this is the order of operations. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns, or suggestions? I go around the room with the owners, the CEOs, the CFOs, the COOs, the board, whoever is involved in this decision. We would get it concrete. They know exactly what to do. And I would come back in 7 days, and then we would adjust what they did. One of 2 things would happen. One group, they would do what was on the list. They might have a couple of questions here and there, but they did it. The secondary group, they procrastinated. They pointed the finger. They gave me all the reasons why they couldn't do it.
Right.
Well, Jim wasn't coming to work, and John didn't show up, and it was payroll week. It was a short week. It was a long week. We didn't have enough money. We had too much money. Any excuse, I call the finger pointing group. Point the finger of why they couldn't do it. And I'm going back, and I'm like, okay, guys, Do you have any questions? Why didn't we do this? Well, it was this, it was that. Okay. So I laid it out there again. I come back in 7 days, same thing. And there was just this pocket of individuals that this would happen with amongst different companies.
Right.
And so I'm reading books about execution and leadership and management and all these different things and trying to educate myself on how to have these people do it. Right. Just do it. Right. Don't procrastinate. Just because once you do it, I knew what the solution was.
Sure.
Kind of like if you want to lose weight, less food in the mouth, more workout, more water, less sugars.
Right.
Go for a run. Like, that's the solution. We don't need a magical pill. You know what the solution is, but the problem is, why don't people do it? So I had this issue in business. So at the time, I was talking to a friend of mine, Victoria Larson, and I knew that she was a licensed psychotherapist. I know she was good at what she did. I went to her and I said, "Hey, Brain Wizard, I got a question for you." She's like, "Don't call me that."
Brain Wizard.
And she's like, "What's your question?" I said, "I've got these people, I've got these grown-ass adults that are paying me up front. They're saying they're ready for change. They want change. They're signing the contract. But when it comes down to doing the work, they're not doing it."
Right.
She's like, "What's your question?" I said, "My question is, why don't adults do the things they want to be doing, that's important to them, or things that they know they should be doing in life?" And she's like, "That's easy. It's in their psychology." And I didn't even know what that means. Like, what do you mean it's in their psychology?
Sure.
And she said, "Well, I'll tell you what, in the 10, 15 years of me being in this field and working with hundreds, if not thousands of clients, seeing human behavior and trend over and over and over and over, the one thing that's going to make or break people's understanding and overcoming their problem is understanding how their psychology works for them and against them."
Right. Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, what does that even mean? And so we went down this path to kind of, to go back to my original statement of there's 4 levels of learning. Level 1 is you just don't know, right? So I thought I knew about mindset and I knew something about it, but like, have you ever been skydiving before, Jim?
No, I haven't.
No. So you would be level 1 or at skydiving. You just don't know.
You
haven't done it before.
Yep, haven't done it.
So then we go to level 2. And level 2 in skydiving is when you sit down with the skydiving instructor and he tells you got to check your oxygen levels, your altimeter, this cord, that cord, this thing, that thing. And he goes through it and you look at him and you look at me and your eyes go wide and you're like, holy smokes, I know now that I don't know jack about skydiving.
Right.
That's level 2. You know that you don't know anything about it. Okay. So when I got and started talking to a licensed psychotherapist that's an expert in mindset, I realized very quickly in that first discussion that I know now that I don't know shit about this.
Right. Okay.
Okay. And you can bleep that out. I don't know if you're allowed to cuss on your podcast.
We'll figure it out on the back end somehow. But yeah, that's fine.
So Jack would be I know that I didn't know Jack about it. Right.
Right.
So then you get to level 3, and level 3 is I can talk about mindset. I can explain it in a way, but I need help with that. I need to have a checklist. I need to have Victoria on my right side. You need to have the instructor, the skydiving instructor right next to you. And then we go to level 4, and level 3 looks like when you're writing your name for the first time, Jim, and you got your tongue out the side of your mouth. You can do it, but it takes effort.
Right.
And level 4 is you can get to a level where you can do it when it becomes autonomous, kind of like what you do in your job.
Right.
And what most people do in their jobs, right? And then you get to this pinnacle of learning, which is level 5, which is you get so good that you can teach other people how to get to level 4 over and over and over and over and over.
Gotcha.
Okay. So in this mindset world, a lot of people think they understand it, but once we get into it, they realize, crap, there's like so much more to it that I didn't even know about. And that's been me for the last 5 years, working hand in hand with real experts of the mind, people that study neuroscience and psychology and human behavior and understand it. So I don't claim to be an expert in psychology because I'm not. Right. And and we see this over and over when people go to people that are so-called gurus and experts and, they're life coaches and nothing wrong with other people trying to help people out. I'm all for that. Kudos to you.
Right.
You're a good human being. But if you're going to lead someone off the edge of a cliff, you better know if they fall, how to catch them properly and that you're equipped for that as well. You're a real expert. Right. If I need LASIK surgery, don't be claiming you're an expert in that because you can do damage.
Right.
And same thing happens with mindset training. If you go in and you learn it the wrong way, you don't understand it, you don't go to the root of it and you put a Band-Aid over it, and you have a confidence issue, and your coach is telling you just jump up and down on a trampoline, pounding your chest, and it gets worse and worse and worse because you're not attacking the root issue, and then you go to substance abuse or some type of other way of dealing with it,
right,
then that's when we see the issue with it. So that's kind of how we got to where we're at. And I utilize it in my business coaching with entrepreneurs, because a lot of times they want to be doing things, but they don't do it because they're getting in their own way. They want to start a business. They don't do it. They are in a business. They can't get to the next level, managing, being triggered by other people, triggering other people. So the psychological world, this mindset world, applies to everyone. The mom that's trying to raise their kid, the manager that's trying to lead a team, the owner that's trying to lead the teams, between me and you conversing,
right,
me and myself. And so I absolutely love it, man. It's my dream job to learn about other people and learn about myself on a daily basis, and I'm doing it.
Well, it sounds like you love it. I can tell with the passion that you speak about it. One question that I don't think I got when you went through that explanation was, how are you motivated to start this business? So you ran into Victoria, and you're like, you realized, oh, here's how to actually solve the problems with your consulting clients that you were working with. How did you discover or think about the idea of like, oh my gosh, this is maybe really my next business, or this is what really people need first?
Great question. So it was actually a doubt that started it.
Interesting.
And let me tell you why. So Victoria, I had her help me with the clients and my business clients. We were doing our own separate things, right? So she was running her practice. She was seeing she had a caseload of 60, 80 people at any given time.
Wow.
And when I would ask her hey, how's your day? She'd tell me some of the stuff, and I'd be like, man, that's awful, right? Like things that I wouldn't even want to hear, Jim, if I can be honest with you.
Oh yeah, if you're
people
a
doing things with
rough.
their kids and just rough stuff, right? And I'm even getting goosebumps even saying it. Just some of the things that she used to tell me. And so when I went and I was able to get my clients over this block, because the block wasn't me telling them what to do, it was them doing what they know they needed to be doing, what they wanted to be doing in the first place.
Right.
So when that happened, I was like, wow, I was missing this whole thing. I've been looking at how to get them over this problem and forward and up, whereas I need to be looking at what's been holding them down and back. So it's another 50%. So when she helped me with that, I was like, there's a lot of mindset stuff that I don't understand. So I went back to her and I said, hey, Victoria, I'm not new to this personal development world, and I understand it. I read books. I have mentors. I have a performance coach. I had a hypnotist at one given time. I'm a wrestler of 7 years, so I understand what you put into it is what you can get out of it. And if I'm running a mile in 8 minutes, why not 7? If 7, why not 6? If I can touch my fingers to the ground, why not my knuckles? So I'm always looking to push. That's just in my DNA, to push that next level. But now I realized, man, it's not about just moving forward and up, but what's holding me back. So I went back to her and I said, hey, if I understand personal development, I meditate, I do all these different things, and I came to you and I'm not new to this world, what would you have me do to become the best version of myself? And she said, well, she kind of cocked her head to the side and she looked at me and she said, you want to be the best version of yourself? I was like, yeah, of course. She's like, well, that's easy. I work with people that have alcohol dependency and drug dependencies, and they don't want to be here, and the judge tells them they got to be here, and the court systems, they tell them they got to be here, and I can still help them out. If you're telling me you want change, we're like 99% of the way there. I'm like, all right, cool. When do we get started? She's like, what do you mean? Right. And looking back, it was a little selfish. I got this magical potion, right?
Well, yeah, give it to me. Let's do it this afternoon.
Yeah. So she's like, what do you mean? I said, well, let's say time is not an issue, and let's say money is not an issue. What would you have me work on first? And she said, well, there's 3 things that hold every single human being back from doing the things they want to be doing in life and reach that next level. And I'm like, 3 things? She's like, yeah. I'm thinking in my head, no flipping way. Right? No way.
Yeah, only 3.
I'm so much more different than you, Jim.
Right.
Right? I'm different right now at 36 years old than I was at 18.
Yeah, for sure.
Than I will be at 66. I'm so much more different than someone in Jamaica and Jerusalem and Israel and 20 years ago. And, it changes across, there's so many different variables to it. But that's what I was thinking. I was not going to tell that to the brain wizard, right? What I said to the brain wizard was, well, what are they?
Okay.
And she said, the first one is fear. fear of failing, fear of rejection, fear of self-doubt, fear of, other people think, fear of the unknown, fear of intimacy, all these fears that we have.
Right.
And I thought to myself, okay, you got a point there.
Yeah,
What's the
makes
second
sense.
one? Yeah. So the second one is self-doubt, right? Not that doubt that we have.
Yeah.
That holds us back. And I said, okay, you got me on that one as well. What's the third one? So negative thinking. So in it, I didn't believe her. I thought, no way, there's more than that. And so what I did is I started an Instagram page. And in it, I kept asking the same question over and over and over, but in different capacities. What's the one thing that holds you back in having the relationship that you want? What's the one thing that holds you back from reaching that next level? What's the one thing that if you can overcome would help you have, the lifestyle that you want? So I just asked it in different ways.
I see.
And I started getting feedback from people all across the world. And everyone would present their thing in a different way, but boiled down and distilled down, it was still fear, self-doubt, and negative thinking. So in that, I went back to her and I was like, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. It's these three things. Well, how do we get after it? How do we fix it? How do we move past this? So if we had someone, and let's say you're not working with these people that don't want to be there, but let's say you're working with the high achievers, like myself, that want to reach that next level, that are ready for it, that are begging for it.
Right.
Like, what would you tell them? She's like, well, I'll take them through a process so they would understand how their mind works for them every single day, so they can squeeze out that performance, and also how their mind works against them, so therefore they understand what's hurting their performance. And once they understand that, and they understand the process of this, the content becomes irrelevant. Because if you understand how fear works for you and against you, that fear of talking to that person that you want to get in a relationship with, that fear of talking to the person that you want to get out of a relationship with,
Right.
the fear of talking to your boss, of getting that raise, the fear of talking to, a partner, of starting the business, or getting it's all the same crap. It's just in different aspects of life.
I see.
So what we do is we educate people. Our company is called Mindset Performance Training. And what we do is we take people through a mindset transformation experience. And what that is it takes an individual from A to Z and gives them three things that you have to have for a real transformation. Number one, expert guidance. And expert guidance isn't someone saying do it this way because they did it and it worked for them. That's personal experience. Expert guidance is real expert of the mind teaching you. And you can go to YouTube, for example, and have a psychotherapist or someone that's an expert in neuroscience teaching you. And it's great. You're going to learn a lot from them. However, you also need the second part of this equation, which is genuine support, right? Genuine feedback, genuine person being there. So when you ask that question, they're standing there, they're going to answer it so you understand it. Because in what we do, there's barriers, blocks, and blind spots that people need to overcome. And the blind spot's the tricky one. Right? When we read a book, the blind spot doesn't talk back to us. The book doesn't say, hey, Jim, you've been doing this the wrong way, right?
Right.
Or when you meditate, you have my inclinations. Something might come up over and over, but it doesn't tell you what to do to fix it. So you need that. You need expert guidance, you need genuine support. And the third one is you got to have that accountability. Because if you don't have accountability versus when you do have accountability, night and day.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Right? Yeah.
Gets you
so
through
that's
the
what we
process
do
faster, for sure.
Yeah. Because you're going to learn it throughout life. Everyone learns the same lessons in their 20s, kind of, in their 30s, kind of, in their 40s, kind of. Regret kind of sets in their 50s, 60s. So when you go to someone, if I was going to build a table, I'd figure it out if I went to Home Depot, right? Sure. I know I need four legs, I need a top. But if I sat down with a master, an expert table maker, expert level, right? Not my friend, an expert, he taught me, that's like light years ahead of the competition. Now, if he taught me and he gave me feedback when I needed it, anytime I asked him, and true support, that's like a whole another game.
Right.
Now, if I got the expert guidance and the support and the accountability, I have to go and sit down in front of this guy once a day, once a week, and show him my work and get feedback in that manner. There's accountability to it. That's like, I'm going to become a master table maker way, 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 way faster than if I went to Home Depot and bought a slab of wood and four legs.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, this speaks a lot to me because, like, I'm a musician, for example. So I teach
Nice.
I teach people private lessons, and this is what I tell people all the time when they want to get better. What's the quickest way to get better is to find a great private teacher, a great one, one that takes you where you want to go, one that's really an expert, because you can listen to records, which is great, and play with your peers, etc., and those are good experiences too. But especially when you're first learning, is getting that one-on-one with a private teacher, and it makes sense because it's they can answer all the questions, they can find your blind spots, they can see where you're really spending too much effort on this part and not enough effort on that part, etc. Those kind of things, and keep you accountable. Like when you're going to go back and see them, once a week or whatever.
All of the above, right? Expert guidance, the support, and the accountability.
For sure.
Because if they're gonna put in if you're testing them the next time, they're gonna put in the work.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
For sure.
And so another thing that applies to this is the 4 levels of learning. As a instructor, and I'm a musician myself as well, so I understand music theory and understanding it and just the nuances of it. So in instruction, if your people came in, like when I used to train my leaders and train my managers of my companies, because 80 people, you got to have the right people in the right place to manage all those people.
Sure.
So what I would tell people when they came in is, because I needed to teach a 16-year-old and a 65-plus-year-old to do a job, do it right the first time, and not mess it up and not affect our bottom line. Like that's the harsh and the hard life of business,
right? But
also with the loving side of it as well. And I don't want to stress out my people. I want to make sure they were happy. The culture was very, very important to me. So in that, what I would do is I would say, okay, there's 5 stages of learning. And when you come into this, let's say you were a cashier before somewhere else and you're going to be a cashier here. Even though you're a cashier, when you get to level 2, you're going to realize that what you know is not what you really need to know because our systems are going to be different. So you're going to go through this level 1, 2, 3, 4. So in translation in music, at first, you're not going to know about music. Then level 2, when we really sit down, you're going to really realize that you don't know nothing about it once we start talking about music theory.
Right.
And then you're going to get to level 3 where you can do it, but your tongue's going to be out the side of your mouth and it's going to be hard for you to tap and sing and do all these things at the same time. And then you're going to get to level 4, it's autonomous. And then level 5, you can teach other people how to play music. So because they understand the levels of learning, it makes their process of learning so much easier because the foundation is there. This is what we call having a systematic mindset. And we talk about this in one of the trainings that we do. You have to have the proper channel, just like how when you teach music, Jim, I'm sure there's a method to your madness,
right?
For it to build one step at a time. So it's nothing surprising when you do that when you want to learn about mindset. But just because it's an abstract thing, it becomes very complex for people because, circle back to the beginning of our conversation, everyone thinks mindset's a different thing.
Right. Well, people just aren't, I think, experienced. It's not something that you learn when you're younger in school or...
Unfortunately.
You know what I mean? It just seems kind of like a little bit esoteric. I think some people, when they think about it, they are like, I know what mindset is. It just means I got to work harder.
Right.
They kind of blow it off. They really kind of don't understand that there is some process to it and technique to it where you could actually build and change and really develop your mindset in these different ways, which I think is the cool thing.
Yeah, the brain is a very social organ, and while you were saying that, it reminded me, like, we worked with a gal. She came to us. She was in her 40s. She was a health and eating disorder, like a health coach. She specifically specialized in working with individuals that had anorexia and bulimia. And so she came to us and she's like, listen, I need to just work on my mindset, and specifically it's my motivation. And as long as I can get my mojo back, then I'm going to be good and everything's going to be all good. But right now, like, I don't feel like working, like I don't have the motivation, my business is in the dumps, and as long as I can fix the motivation, I can fix it. Could you guys help with motivation? And I said, well, to be honest with you, with all due respect, I think motivation is what the surface problems that you're seeing and you're feeling.
Right.
I think when we get down to it, the roots of it, you're going to find that it's so much more than just motivation. There are things that are holding you down. We don't need motivation balloons to take you out of the situation. We need to figure out what's zapping those balloons in the first place and holding you back.
Right.
And she's like, well, I've studied psychology. I'm a coach. I train other people. So what are you going to really teach me about mindset that I don't already know myself? And I wanted to say challenge accepted, but I didn't say that. I said, hey, so-and-so, just trust the process, because there's barriers, blocks, and blind spots, and they're called blind spots for a reason. We can't identify them ourselves. So as long as you go through the process and you're open and you're real and you're raw with yourself, then I can almost guarantee my left arm that you're going to find out things about yourself, and we're going to ask you questions in ways that you're not even going to even know existed about yourself. And lo and behold, she went through it, and she's like, and what reminded me of her story was when you said people don't know, she specifically said, because we do a before and after video with every single person we work with.
I see.
And we do a test in phase and a test out phase, so we know exactly where they're at in every aspect of their life. So we're not just guessing. We take a very scientific and tracking approach.
Mm-hmm.
So we ask you, hey, Jim, where are you at on a scale of 1 to 10? 1, not where you want to be. 10, exactly where you want to be in your physical health, in your mental health, in your relationships,
Gotcha.
in your finances, in your career, in your spirituality, in your time management. And then I think one of them, I'm missing one of them. I think it might be your overall, or your purpose. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So all life 8 categories, and they rate them themselves. And then when we get done with it, they rate it again. And then we have this before and after video. And so we put it together, and some of our clients are awesome enough to want to share it with people to kind of show them the before and after. And I'll tell you what, I get the chills watching every one of these because you see what they look like beforehand, stress in their face, in the way they talk, self-doubt. And people can go to our website, mindsetperformancetraining.com, and just go to the bottom and click on client reviews. They can see it. There's so many powerful lessons in just seeing other people's transformations if you're open to it.
Oh, for sure.
And seeing that. But one of the things that she said in this is, I realized that you don't know what you don't know. And I thought I knew, but I had no idea. And this is one of the best things that I've ever done. And I've gotten more done in the last 1 month than I have in the last 6 months, because I've been working on the wrong things. I've been looking at the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something that I wish I would have known this information 10, 20 years ago, because I was looking at the wrong things. I was doing things the not the wrong way, but just looking at it right when I could have been looking at it left as well.
Sure.
And it's just, I think it would have been awesome if parents can teach this or school teaches this, but they do the best they can with what they got.
There's a lot to teach and a lot to put into the curriculum, but I think you said it. It's a great way to say it, is you just don't know what you don't know. You always have those blind spots, and that's why when having different types of people on the show and trying to come at problems or issues from different angles, I think is very important, because you might just unlock that one level of understanding that you didn't have, or shine some light on that one blind spot that you're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that was there. Thank goodness now I know about it, and now you can actually move to a different level, or just get out of that rut you were in, because you're like, oh, now I realize I was in a rut. Sometimes you don't even realize you're there, because it's it kind of, things creep up on you slowly. So
bingo.
You know what? When you're working with people, one question in my mind is, what types of people are your clients? Is there a specific kind of niche, or is it kind of all over the map? Is it, for people listening out there, if you're like running a business or dealing with a specific like social issue, like you said, like some of the counseling kind of stuff would address. Are you open to taking all types of clients, or do you try to focus on business people or entrepreneurs? Or
Great question. You got good questions, Jim.
Okay, well, I'll just try to figure it out, man.
No, I like it. Some podcasts I've been on there have like question outline, and it doesn't make, this is a lot more fun in the sense of, we just kind of ping around and we figure it out, and we have a general, a natural conversation, and I appreciate the question. So, no, we do not work with everyone.
Okay.
That's my short answer.
Okay,
because you have to be ready for this stuff, right?
Right.
If you're in a tough transitional place where you just lost your job, you're worrying about keeping the lights on and the food on the table and feeding your kids, and you're not standing up on your 2 feet, you're not going to really be in a place, a mind place, to really work on your mindset, because you're going to be stressing about those kind of things.
Right.
Going back to the hierarchy of our needs, you gotta know that your basic needs got to be met first. And so the people that we work with, to answer your specific question, is individuals that are ready to reach that next level, high achievers, people that have tried, different traditional methods of self-improvement. They've tried the books, they've tried the audiobooks, the motivational videos, they've done the seminars, or they've tried meditation. They've done these things, and they've gotten some type of success or not success, and they're ready to see what else is out there. And they're looking for a new way of training that's going to help them overcome the problems they've had from a completely different angle. And it could be, we work with people that are empty nester moms. Kids have grown up, they're kind of lost and confused. They don't know how to get to that next level, and they're stuck.
Right.
We work with working professionals that are a little bit younger. We've worked with couples. We've worked with people that want to start a business, that have started a business, that want to get to the next level, that have a business making 6 figures, wanting to go to 7, from 7 to 8. So at the end of the day, you are at where you are in your life because of the thoughts that you had yesterday and what you did with them. And where you're going to be going tomorrow is the thoughts that you have today and the energy that you bring behind it. So you have to be ready for that change, and you have to be committed to that change. Right. So when I talk to people, it's not like they're not doing this for me. I'm not there to convince them. The only thing I do is make sure that they're ready for this. And some people aren't, and we turn them down. Sorry, you're not ready for this. Right. We don't work with everyone. And we actually go through a rigorous would be a good word for it. We go through a rigorous conversation up front to say, hey, where are you at? What are you trying to do? And what are you trying to accomplish? And I need to have a few things lined out in my brain for me to even consider it. Number one, I got to be certain I know what the problem is that they're dealing with.
Right.
I got to know that without shadow of a doubt that sitting in that situation is going to make their problems worse, and fixing it is better off, or else it's going to get worse. The third one is that we can help them with it. The fourth one is that we will help them with it. And the fifth one is that we're going to be able to hold the line with them for the 8 weeks to be able to have them go through this transformation process, and 100% confident that what we offer is going to help them get the results. Because, Jim, I'll tell you right now, if you're around a piece of wood, because I'm not, knock on it 3 times, we've had 100% success rate with every single person that we've worked with so far.
Wow.
And that's not us. That's not me saying we're successful, because that doesn't mean diddly squat, right? What matters is when we ask the client, at the end of it, we ask them 3 distinct questions. Number 1, did you get the results that you wanted? It's a very broad question, right? So the second one is, do you feel like you had a transformation? And the third one is, do you feel like you had a complete mindset transformation? And every single person that's gone through it so far has said yes, yes, yes. And on top of it, we say on a scale of 1 to 5, how well did you reach your results that you were after? And every single person, 100%, not 99, not 90, 100% has said level 5. So that there's a reason for that, because A, we only work with people that are ready for it, but B, because our program, our experience is very step-by-step. Like Victoria's been doing this for 10, 15 years. I've been developing people for 20 some odd years. So when we come together, the process that we utilize is something that applies to all types of problem, because it's process oriented.
Right.
And it's not specific to a problem, whereas that's what books do. Right? That's what like specific solutions do. We want to get one level higher and attack the brain part. So once you understand it, doesn't matter what aspect of your life it falls into, physical health, mental health, relationships, friendships, whatever. Right. You can apply these tools to those things. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I can tell that anyone that would, be interested in trying it, at a minimum, they're going to learn a ton. I feel like I've learned a ton just during this short conversation right now, so that's pretty cool. But that's good to kind of let everybody know out there, though. It's not right for everybody, or you have to be at the right place in your own mind, or kind of ready to take on this challenge. If you're in real crisis mode, you better go somewhere else probably. But if you're ready to really work on yourself, it sounds like this might be something you might want to try and check out. So, we got a few minutes left. Thanks for sharing all those stories, by the way. We got a few minutes left before we get out of here. But there's always a couple questions that I like to ask of all the guests that come on the show. And one is in regards to kind of technology. So you're taking this business a lot online, and technology is affecting a lot of us in different ways these days, with all the different business models and the challenge of social media and all this kind of stuff. Is there something that maybe you even see within the practice that you're doing that is a real challenge to you, or some angst with respect to technology, or how people are dealing with it, or the benefits you're getting out of it because now you can help people around the world? What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So I think both, right? It's not one or the other. I think the challenges that it faces.
Oh, Reza, you just dropped out, man. Where did you go? Hello? Reza?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now. Okay. Just go ahead and start answering.
Okay. So the question was, the question that you asked is what does technology, what issues does it cause?
Right.
And I think right now we just had a little glitch in our connectivity.
Right,
and,
we did.
Yesterday we do a live show and we had technical difficulties. So I think when technology doesn't want to work with you, because we do mindset training, because we understand how the mind works, these things don't really get under our skin, doesn't ruin our day, because it's just a problem and you just overcome it and that's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whereas 10 years ago, I might have wanted to punch my freaking screen and throw it across the room because it's not working. We got all these problems. And
right.
I think that comes with learning how your mind works for you and against you. But to answer your question, the beauty of it is I get to talk to people from all across the world and from all different backgrounds and cultures, and just amazing. Like, I have one of the coolest jobs in the world, which is talking to people that are raising their hand. They're saying, I'm ready. I want to change my life. And within 8 weeks, I get to be a part of the decision-making process, the commitment process, their work, their ethic, their accountability. And I get to really, I'm blessed to be a part of that journey for them to grow. And I'll tell you what, every single person, like, it's lifelong friendships for us because we see what they're doing with it. So I think there's beauty in all of it as long as you're ready for it. Even in the technological problems, when it happens, I think it's just a nice test for your patience. Right? It's
yeah, that's a good way to think of it. It's just a nice test for your patience.
It's how you look at it, right?
Right.
It's all true. How you look at it. And one thing that we really get down, like all these things that we talk about, we get into it in an inch wide and a mile deep, but a lot of it is our perspective of how we look out of it. If you have goggles that are very scratched up and red and they're just muddy, like, that's going to be completely different than if you have LASIK surgery and you can see it a different way. Right. So the mindset part of it is perspective, but I love technology, man. I'm a technological geek. Don't look at my smile. I love the technological stuff. I love the back end stuff, and I love we utilize a lot of automation. We utilize a lot of technology and dashboards to be able to really provide our people, and we track everything. So we really utilize technology to help us. And if it's hurting us, we try to become smarter and work around it so it does help us, and we can reach that next level.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I like your kind of systematic approach and the way you kind of quantify and measure things. So that kind of speaks to me as my engineering background. So it makes a lot of sense that you can leverage the technology to collect all that data and analyze it. And yeah, that's great. Well, my last question before we get out of here is, now that we've talked about mindset this whole time, I'm very interested to hear kind of what your thoughts are on, as you go through life, how do you keep your mind open, which might be a different thing than mindset, I'm not sure, to reinvention, and how do you keep reinventing yourself? Or, are there any tips or techniques that maybe aren't mindset or that are mindset that you would say, like, hey, this really helps you?
Does it help that I work with and partner up with and live with a licensed psychotherapist? that part of it, right? That's the mandatory.
That's your secret sauce right there, probably, right?
That's my secret sauce, right? And I'm a very inquisitive and high energy person. I'm always asking why and how come and applying it. But on a more serious note, and by the way, I absolutely love it. I think it's a privilege that I have that most people don't have to do that. But
right.
I think being open, and I have this journal, and on the first page of it says the older that I get, the less I know, or the more I see, the less I know. And it just comes with age, and the quicker we understand this in life, I think it's going to allow us to reach that next level. So for me and for all the listeners, if we're open to understanding and getting past the I know phase and thinking we know it and realizing that there's so much out there, and if we're open to go into people that understand the thing that we want to understand, whether it's your mindset or running or your relationships or whatever, the thing that you want to get help with, if you go to someone that understands it, you're going to be 10 steps ahead of trying it by yourself, because landing on your face and landing on your butt hurts, and it takes time, it takes money, it takes energy. Right. So as long as we're open-minded and open-hearted to getting the help and putting our ego aside, then I think that is one of the most beautiful gifts that we can give to ourselves and continue to learn, as opposed to being rigid and saying, I already know this stuff, or what are you going to teach me? And that's going to come with age. Once we hit about 50, 60, or I am the way that I am, what are you going to teach me? That I already know. And so if we want to curb that, and I think the sooner that we do that, the more beautiful and blissful and exciting life that we can live and experience.
Oh, well, I like that idea. And actually that's kind of really the wavelength that I'm on right now is, with the reinvention revolution is, I think it's so important because the world is changing so fast. I don't think you can rely on sort of the 20th century notion of, I'm an expert now and I know how the world works and I know these certain technologies or I know these certain businesses, how they run. The world's being reinvented before our eyes, it feels like to me. And it's just minute by minute. And so like this, I feel it's almost a requirement now to have this open mind. Otherwise, you're really going to get blindsided or have some real struggles maybe the older you get or whatever it is. So that's a great message to keep your mind open and also keep your heart open. I love that.
You're shooting yourself in the foot if you're not, because if you got problems and you're not dealing with it and you're putting Band-Aids on it, then it will. It's just a matter of time before it affects other aspects of your life.
Yeah,
right. If your mindset's not dialed in, does it affect your personal health? Sure. Does it affect your relationships? Sure. Does it affect your purpose? Absolutely. If your purpose is not there, does that affect your finances? Sure. If your physical health is not there, does that affect your relationships? Absolutely. It's all connected. As much as you like to compartmentalize it, it's all connected.
Yeah, no question.
So Jim, one thing that I want to let your listeners know is I want to put together, because this is like, I love talking about this stuff, and I can talk about this stuff for hours on it. It's really a passion of mine, but I don't want to dump on them. But there's so much more to mindset, right? And so we can put together a training which is specifically the exact 5 shifts that our clients utilize to be able to make change in all aspects of their life without the guesswork and without the trial and error and without just swinging at the bat. And what the training is, it really breaks down kind of what we talked about today, but like a lot deeper of understanding what mindset really is. And then above and beyond that, like how do we play with it so therefore we get what we want out of it. Right.
Gotcha.
So I can put up a training for you guys and give you a link on it. You can share it with them. We'll do mindsetperformancetraining.com/JimJim. And it'll be completely free. There'll be no selling on it, just 100% content to really help them out understand kind of what we're doing and make it really in depth for them.
Okay. Oh, that would be great. Okay. So I'll make sure I put that in the show notes so everybody can just click on the link and go there if you're interested in checking it out. And sounds like I probably will, because I'm interested in this now, and I know it's going to keep my mind open. So thanks so much, Reza, for being on. I really appreciate it.
Jim, it's a pleasure and honor, sir. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Great questions, and looking forward to connecting with you soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for listening to JimJim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com. See you next time, and remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of.